Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Canada once again and we're going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So out of the two breweries involved in this one, only the home brewery has featured on the channel a couple of times before, and they're also quite a recent addition to the channel. They made their first appearance a couple of months ago, if memory serves me correctly, but the Away Brewery is one that I have never tried anything from before. These guys are another relatively new addition to the Canadian beer scene, and they're supposed to have built a very good reputation for themselves, so definitely cool to be able to introduce these guys to you here on the channel at this early stage in their history. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is a style that is very popular just now, one that I do quite enjoy, but it's also a sub-style that's only featured on the channel a couple of times before, and these beers are fairly easy to come across, but not all that often here in Hong Kong actually. But definitely cool to introduce another Canadian brewery to you here on the channel, and I'm very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. So hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, like I said, we are going to head over to Canada for this one. For the home side of things, we're going to go to the province of Ontario, and we're going to go out to the west of Toronto to a little place called Milton, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Third Moon Brewing Company. So yeah, this particular beer is called Haunted Quad. It comes in at 11.9% ABV, so it is a little bit of a monster, but this one is a New England Hazy Imperial Quadruple, whatever you want to call it, IPA. But this beer is also brewed in collaboration with Nano Cinco, Brasserie Artisanale, who come from Quebec City over in the province of Quebec. So yeah, very first time they're featuring on the channel, but they've been around for a couple of years, but they are a very prolific brewery as well from what I understand. But yeah, I think this one should be pretty nice. It's one of only a handful of New England Quadruple IPAs that we've reviewed on the channel before. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we get on. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about both the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Third Moon Brewing Company before, and we will no doubt add more to that list in the near future. There's also a link there to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Nano Cinco. Very first time I'm encountering these guys, as I said, but hopefully I can get over to Canada and visit them at some stage. That would be very cool. But all the usual social media can be found down there as well. If you do want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So go in there, use the little search bar, put your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Canadian playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to fairly regularly because we do get a good selection of Canadian stuff here in Hong Kong, and make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things in the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Third Moon Brewing Company to start off with, since they are the home brewery in this case. So, Third Moon Brewing Company, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Milton in Ontario, which is to the west of Toronto, and the company was founded by Steve Bibo Piloto and Chris Steininger. So Bibo is originally from Chicago in Illinois down in the US, and he moved to Montreal to study and then on to Ontario shortly after graduating. But he studied communications and finance and worked in investment and trade for a number of years. But Chris originally studied maths and computing science, and he comes from a background in IT and product management. But the guys were big beer enthusiasts, and apparently they met through a mutual friend's Untappd meetup, and they sat opposite each other and just nerded out on beer for the whole evening, and this was where the friendship was born. But they both tried to find beers from different breweries across the world, and Bibo was already quite an avid home brewer, and they say that they just want to kind of brew beers that they would drink themselves, and as I say, that's kind of where it stemmed from. But the brewery was announced in the summer of 2019 and they opened in 2020 in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. But since their foundation, they've added Jim Fay and Cole Firth to the brewing team, while Melissa Steininger has also come in to take care of the operations and maintenance side of things. But once the COVID restrictions were lifted, they opened up the tap room at the brewery and they've been gradually working to expand the fermentation capacity of it over the last few years. And as of August 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 375 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. They do quite a wide variety of different styles, but they have of course really made a name for themselves when it comes to the New England hazies. This is where this brewery seems to really be making a name for itself, and there are quite a few good Canadian hazy IPA breweries at the moment, I have to say. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Third Moon Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. But yeah, let's go over to Montreal, well, not to Montreal, to Quebec for the next one then. And I will apologise in advance for any bad French pronunciations in this particular section of the video. It's been a long time since I did my high school French, but I'll try my best. But yeah, we're going to go to Quebec City for Nano Cinco. So, as I mentioned to you earlier, Nano Cinco are based in Quebec City and they released their first beers in 2021. But the four friends behind this company are Paul Simon, Mathieu Pelletier, Eloi Paradis de Chance, and William Berton. So the project started back in 2016 in Matthew's basement, and at this time it was just he and Eloi that were brewing together. But the two were very interested in developing their own kind of charcuterie and cheese, cheese and hams and things like this. But they also became very interested in craft beers, and then they decided that they wanted to have a go at brewing their own, and they officially founded their own company together. And Paul and William would join a little bit later on during the COVID pandemic. But these guys started out as a gypsy brewery, brewing their beers at Brasserie Générale in Charlesbourg, and they would release 1 or 2 beers a month to help build up their customer base. And during this period, they also did a number of collaboration beers with other local breweries and ones a little bit further afield. But their beer received a lot of praise, and so they decided that they wanted to go to the next level and found their own physical brewery. So they used crowdfunding to help them get this off the ground, and they raised over 20,000 Canadian dollars. And in late 2022, they opened their own brewery in the Vieux-Limoilou area in on the north side of the Saint Charles River. But the brewery has 2 separate brewing systems, one for their smaller, more experimental batches, and then they've got a larger system for their main production batches, as well as a 1,000 litre fodder, from what I understand. But they brew a lot of IPAs, sours, and they're working on a barrel program at the moment. I think they've released a few beers from that, but it's still very much a work in progress from what I gather. And that's one of the ways they hope to distinguish themselves in Quebec going forward. They want to be known for their barrel-aged beers. But the brewery has an on-site tap room with about 50 seats, and they apparently work with nearby restaurants to do direct orders so that their customers can bring in different food, because they say they wanted to kind of plant themselves as a kind of solid member of their neighbourhood. But these days, Mathieu is in charge of research and development, William is the production manager, Paul takes care of the sales and marketing, while Eloi deals with the finance and administration side of things. And as of August 2024, these guys have produced 360 different beers according to Untappd. And when you consider that the first beers were, according to Untappd, released in 2021, 360 beers in the space of 3 years, I think is pretty damn impressive. That's 120 beers a year, or averaging about 2 a week. So yeah, these guys are pretty damn prolific, I have to say. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Nano Cinco Brasserie Artisanale for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, again, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and have a little look at this beer itself. So I'll just let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. So yeah, as you can see, the kind of horror film sort of artwork in this one. Colourful horror film, as I like to say. I can't say my R's today, I don't know why. But there you can see the Third Moon Brewing Company symbol at the top there and the Nano Cinco. This can, incidentally, is 473 millilitres, 1 American pint. If I'm not mistaken, I either bought this beer at Angry Beer in Mongkok here in Kowloon in Hong Kong, or down at Beer in the One Mall in Tsim Sha Tsui, also in Kowloon, Hong Kong. So I got it at one of these two places, I honestly can't remember. But yeah, like we said earlier, this one comes in at 11.9% ABV, New England Quadruple IPA. The hops in this one are Peacherine, Waimea, Riwaka, Rakau, and it's also got Nelson Sauvin Sub-Zero Hop Keef. Sub-Zero Hop Keef is basically just like a really concentrated lupulin oil, from what I understand. It's basically a new technique that they've developed. But these hops are all from freestyle hops in New Zealand. And to tell you a little bit about them, because some of these are new to me as well, or I haven't had them in quite a wee while. Peacherine, I don't think I've had before. This is a New Zealand hop which gives a big peach nectarine character, hence the name. It's also got quite a little bit of lime and a strong floral character to it as well. I couldn't find out the alpha acid of this hop, incidentally, though. Remember, alpha acids tell you your degree of bitterness, whereas beta acids are responsible for the kind of flavours and things like that. But Waimea is one we've had before. Again, New Zealand hop with about 14 to 17% alpha acid. It's known for its grapefruit and pine resin character. Rakau, again, New Zealand hop, 10 to 11% alpha acid. It's known for big apricot and stone fruit character. Riwaka, another New Zealand hop, low alpha acid this time, quite a susceptible hop to mildew or something if I remember correctly, but 4 to 6% alpha acid, and it's known for papaya and lychee flavours. And we know Nelson Sauvin, of course, that's usually about 16% alpha acid, and it gives you that big white, green, grapey sort of character. So quite an interesting hop bill in this one, I have to say. But yeah, let's get it out into the glass then and see what it's all about. An 11.9% Quadruple IPA. I think this is going to be a bit of a monster. I've been looking forward to this one. When I actually saw the name of it, I thought it was a Belgian Quadruple, right enough, and that got me a bit excited because I haven't reviewed one of those in quite some time. But yeah, it turned out it was a Quadruple hazy IPA, but yeah, still a good choice nonetheless. So there we are. I think that'll do for just taking a look at the beer's appearance for the moment. Let me just line that up so my OCD is happy. But yeah, you can see the this beer, we've poured maybe about 80% of it out and into the glass, but you can see it's poured with this lovely just under a finger of, I would say, kind of cream coloured head there. Some medium-sized bubbles sitting on the surface of the liquid there, but you can see the head gets a little bit more foamy the further up that you go. And I have to say, the colour of this one is absolutely lovely. It's kind of like a mix of mango and peach juice, I would say. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well, but you don't often have to care about that when it comes to different kinds of IPAs. But the level of haze in this beer is pretty much what you'd expect from a New England Quadruple. The level of haze in these beers depends on the oak content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. That can vary from beer to beer and brewery to brewery. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together in this one is pretty nice. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation, but yeah, just all in all, this beer isn't really surprising in terms of its appearance. It is what you would expect of the style. So yeah, I don't think we need to say anything more about that. The only other thing we can add is that the head is clearing away to just leave a sort of thin foamy layer on this one. But yeah, let's have a look at the nose and see what we get out of this beer. I have to say, I'm very, very curious about this one. That smells good. It does. Yeah, it's kind of giving you everything you'd expect. You've got a lovely, big, juicy, slightly pungent fruity character coming out of this one. You've got the big bready sort of oaty backbone to it, and you've got that nice kind of bright green component in there. So as I've explained on the channel a number of times before, for me there are 6 elements to think about when it comes to a New England IPA, and its malty yeasty character. So they can be a little bit more kind of the 6 elements would be the sort of rye leaning grainy kind of character. and also the farmhousey yeasty type notes. Those are a bit more common in New England, American brewed New England IPAs. You've got wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and also the sweeter side of things. And for me, this beer is showing quite a lot of oaty character. I do get a little bit of wheaty bitiness out of it as well. Definitely some of the barley malt bread is in there, but it's also showing quite a little bit of sweeter character to it as well. And that's understandable because it is 12% ABV. This is one of the heaviest New England IPAs I think that I've reviewed on the channel for you, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, this one for me is quite oaty and quite sweet, I would say. I think that's where this one's going to lean. But let's try and break the aroma down then and just describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So the backbone of the beer is of course like a kind of fresh white bready bread crust, I would say, like a kind of hedgehog roll, I would say. But behind that, you've got a little touch of woodiness in there, you've got a little bit of cracker, and at the back of the nose, I do get a little bit of that kind of farmhousey, yeasty, bready type character. So that's quite interesting too. But when you sugar the beer up, you start to get the bready notes out of this one. So yeah, on top of the cracker, you can smell there's a little bit of like a sweet brown bread in there. Yeah, you can smell that little bit of graininess out of it, but it's quite a sweet, oily, kind of wholemeal brown bread that's coming out of this one. But then on top of that, you've got a big sort of fluffy, fresh, white bready character in there. But it has quite a bit of density to it, and when it's a quadruple IPA, that's going to be the case. But yeah, you can smell like a slightly denser white bready character there as well, which will be the wheat. And you can smell that little bit of wheaty bitiness in the top of the nose, which I think is great. So yeah, a little bit of wheaty bitiness in the top of the nose there. And then underneath that, you have, or on top of that I should say, you've got a little bit of oatiness coming out of the beer. So as I've often said, when it comes to oatiness in New England IPAs, these can often be very useful because they give you a rough indicator of how fresh your beer is. Essentially, the creamier the oats taste and smell, the fresher the New England IPAs, the drier they are, the older it is. This beer I think is about, I bought this one just before I went away on holiday for the summer, so I've had it in the fridge about a month, so you know, it's a bit stronger, it will last, but to say not in its absolute prime freshness, and of course it's been imported from Canada before that, so maybe this one's about 6 weeks, 2 months old, something like that, but still, at this level of ABV it's going to be good. But yeah, the oats in this one still smell really creamy, but you are starting to get that little bit of dryness out of them. And you do have to remember as well that American oats are a little bit more porridgey. North American oats are a bit more porridgey than European oats, which tend to be a little bit more creamy in my experience. So with this beer, you do get a little bit of that oaty dryness, but still it is really, really nice and creamy. But on top of that though, you can smell a nice little bit of booziness in there. There's quite a lot of like Werther's Original Butter Candy Butterscotch. I don't know if I would go as far as saying straight up caramel, but it's not far away from that. And there is just a little bit of that McVitie's digestive biscuity character coming out of this one too. But yeah, it's a big creamy, smooth, oaty malt base that you're getting out of this beer, just to kind of summarise it. But you've got all these other little notes in there as well. But I do get a fair little bit of yeastiness out of this one, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, I think we've said everything we need about the malty and yeasty side of the beer. On the hoppy side of things then, so as I said earlier, it's got a nice big green component to it, and when it comes to IPAs there are three kinds of hopping. Early addition hopping, which takes place within the first hour of the wort boil, that gives you a deeper, more dank aroma, and it's responsible mainly for bitterness. You've got late addition hopping, which takes place in the latter half hour of the wort boil. That gives you a very bright green component, but it gives you a little touch of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma. And then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete. That's again a very bright green component in terms of flavour and aroma, and it's responsible all for flavour and aroma. It doesn't give you any bitterness at all. So New England IPAs use late addition and dry hopping for the most part, which is why they're softer and more kind of juicy. West Coast IPAs use early addition hopping as well, which is why they have that kind of more bitter, deep, dank character to them quite often. So yeah, the green component in this one is really, really nice. You can smell that it's got this, the hop zero sub-key. what is it called? The hop keef Sub-Zero thing. Like I say, it's a lupulin oil. So it's kind of like cryo, so you can smell the smoothness of the green component in this one for sure. So you do have a little touch of earthiness in there, and you do have a wee bit of herbal character, but mainly your green component is this oily, floral, aromatic sort of thing, and you've got some grassy notes there at the front of your nose as well. But the green component, I think we will get more complexity out of that in the actual flavour than we will from the aroma, to be honest with you. But on the fruity side of things, there's quite a lot going on in this one, I have to say. So yeah, I get a lot of apricot out of this one, which I think that was the Ruaka, if I remember rightly, that gives you the kind of apricot-y type notes. So yeah, there's a lot of apricot in there. There is that kind of peachy nectarine sort of thing behind there as well, from the peacherine for sure. But yeah, there's apricot, there's pineapple, that peachy nectarine kind of note coming out of this one. I don't know if I would say grapefruit, to be honest. The peach and nectarine kind of dominate that a little bit. And there's a wee bit, I do get a little slight orangey, limey kind of character out of this one as well. But yeah, apricots, pineapple, peach, nectarine, absolutely. And then yeah, there's a wee bit of like a kind of an orangey, limey note to this one. But the fruity character in this beer is absolutely lovely. The aroma of this beer really is very, very nice. So as I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we have a taste of this one and just see what it's all about. So yeah, this is the Haunted Quad, an 11.9% ABV New England Quadruple Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA, from Third Moon Brewing Company in Milton, Ontario, in collaboration with Nano Cinco from Quebec City over in Quebec. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers, santé. Oh yeah, that's a beast, but I will say this is really, really good. So big thumbs up to both breweries involved in this one. They have pulled off a very, very nice beer, we have to say that. Yeah, that is really damn good actually. Yeah, as I say, I know what Third Moon are capable of because we've had a couple of their beers on the channel now, and I'm sure we'll have another couple at some stage fairly soon. But a very good impression, a very good first impression of Nano Cinco as well. And as I say, I've heard good things about them. I need to see what my Canadian beer tubing colleagues say about those guys, because I think one or two of them are based in the areas close to that. So yeah, go and check out my friends such as Lee Russell and Redbeard. There's a lot of good Canadian beer tubers these days, and they'll keep you more up to date with the Canadian beer scene. But that's a really, really damn good New England IPA generally, and it's also a very good quadruple as well, I would say. But yeah, I will say this one, it gives you a little bit more bitterness and a little bit more kind of yeastiness, I think, into the aftertaste. But it is quite a creamy, sweet and juicy New England Quadruple IPA in the beginning, that's for sure. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful beer, this one. So if you come across it, it is definitely worth trying. So yeah, let's do as we always do. We'll break the beer down and describe the flavour for you a wee bit more in depth. And yeah, this is good. Going to enjoy this for sure. So yeah, the backbone of this beer, middle third of your palate then, you can feel the backbone of the beer is that lovely kind of hedgehog, white bready bread crust in there, and that's great. As you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you can feel there's a little touch of like woodiness and stuff comes out of this one. So yeah, hedgehog bread crust, a little bit of woodiness in there, and then above that you've got a Jacob's cream cracker coming out of this one. So yeah, and And I would say the cracker kind of lingers into the aftertaste as well, which is interesting. But yeah, above the bread crust and above the cracker, so you've got that little bit of woodiness in there, then you've got that wholemeal brown bready character coming out of this one. So you can feel that more grainy wholemeal brown bready character in the base. And then above that, you have, above that, you start to get the white bready notes out of this one. So yeah, you've got a wee bit more of a kind of airy white bready character in there. And then above that, you start to get the, above that, you get the more dense, wheaty type character out of the beer as well. So yeah, a more dense, you can feel the more fluffy white bready character. And you do get a wee bit of sweetness out of that white bread actually. And then yeah, above that, you can feel the more dense wheaty character coming out of this beer. And as I've often said in the channel, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. But you can feel that little bit of wheaty bitiness further back on the palate with this beer. And again, I think that's really nice in this one. I do like how that goes together. But yeah, you can feel that that more dense wheaty character out of this one. So it's a little bit sweeter further forward, but then yeah, it gets a little bit more bitter and bitey almost the further back that you go. But on top of the wheaty layer then in this beer, you do get that really nice, you do get a really nice little bit of oaty creaminess coming out of the beer. So down the middle line of your tongue, you can of course feel the real creamy part of the oats, and then as you move further out toward the edges of your palate, it gives you a little bit more. It gives you a little bit more of a slightly drier oaty character, which is quite interesting. So yeah, above the oaty character though, in the dead centre of your palate, you get that little circle there, and within that you get that Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type note coming out of the beer. So yeah, you can feel that really sweet Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy note coming out of it. So yeah, all in all, the way that goes together, I think, is very, very nice. For me, there's a little bit of biscuity character in there as well. So around that Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch, which is the booze of course in this beer, you do get that little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuity character as well, which I do really quite like. But on top of that, I would say maybe there's just a little bit of graininess into the aftertaste too. But I think at that we've covered everything we really need to say about the middle third of your palate in this beer. But I think it's really nicely done. And again, this beer is not in its prime freshness. It probably would be even sweeter and more kind of, or even creamier, I would say, if we tried it a little bit earlier. But what can you do? Didn't have time to look at this one before I left. But yeah, flavour wise, this beer is really good. So yeah, for me, if we go to the back third of your palate, as I've often said, the back third of your palate will give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. But yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. So the base is the brown bread, then you've got the fluffier white bread above that, then the wee bit of wheaty bitiness on top. But yeah, the base of that back third of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of, you have got a nice little bit of kind of Jacob's cream cracker in the base, which again, as I say, is a little bit drier. On top of that, you've got a little bit more of, on top of that, you've got a wee bit more of, you've got a little bit of that woodiness in there above the, well, more of a cracker actually. So you've got the bread crust, the cracker, then you get the brown bready layer, which you can feel is a little bit lighter, taller and more airy than the white bready layer above that, which again is a little bit lighter, taller and more airy. They're a bit drier actually as well. And then you can feel the wheaty bitiness just creeping over the top of that. And the wheat actually does have a fair little bit of bite in that back third of the palate as well, which is quite interesting. But then above everything else, on that back third of the palate, you get the yeasty character in the beer. And the yeasty side of the beer, for me, you've got a more dense You've got that more dense, sweet, or more of a dense wholemeal, grainy brown bready character in the middle. Then as you go round the edge of it, it's this more sweet brown bread, and then yeah, you've got the white, the kind of sweeter white bready character around the edge of that as well. But all in all, the way that that kind of pieces together in this one, I think, is very, very nice. So gets a big thumbs up from me in that regard. So yeah, that really is very nice there. But definitely, yeah, back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller, and as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, the way it goes together, I think, is really, really nice. So yeah, hoppy side of things then. One thing I will say is that when you drink more of this beer, it actually does show you a little bit more bitterness. I think it's the Waimea that's going to give you that, because you can feel it's just got that piney resiny character to it, which is nice. But yeah, in the back corners of your palate, you do feel that little bit of earthiness in there. But as you move further forward, you can feel that little bit piney resinous character, which, as I say, is most likely from the Waimea. It can give you that kind of piney resinous notes. Waimea is almost like New Zealand's answer to Chinook, for example. So yeah, you're definitely getting that in there. And as you reach the front corners of your palate, you do get a little bit of that floral aromatic spice there, and then round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy and kind of zesty as well. I'm surprised that the green component in this one doesn't feel a little bit more oily and slick almost, because that's what these kind of sub-zero hop keef cryo oil type things do to the beer. They very often give you a very smooth green component actually. So that's an interesting observation with this one. But yeah, let's look at the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of the beer. So the border region between middle and front and middle third of your palate, you get that little bit of bready character again in there. You've got the brown bready base in there, the white bready character above that, then a wee bit of the kind of wheaty bitiness there. But the base of that front third of your palate, you can feel the nice kind of wholemeal brown. You can feel that nice little bit of how would you say, like a sort of hedgehog bread crusty sort of note. Then you get a bit of cracker, then you've got the brown bread, the white bread, and the more dense wheaty white bready note above that. Then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll the way out of the beer. So let's have a little look at the fruity side of things with this one then. So, for me, fruity side of this beer again, it's kind of what I expected from the aroma, to be honest with you. At the back of that front third of your palate, yeah, you get that nice big peachy, that big peachy note in there. But as you move further forward from that, there's maybe a little bit of grapefruit in behind that as well from the Waimea. Yeah, at the very back of that front third of your palate, I'd say especially into the aftertaste, you do get a bit of that really pungent, strong grapefruit. But then yeah, as you move further forward from that, you start to get the you start to get that little bit of more kind of peachy, nectarine sort of thing. And then yeah, when you come forward from that, you start to get the softer tropical notes. There's definitely a bit of juicy mango in there, and you can feel the soft kind of apricot-y type characters coming out of this one. So yeah, the Ruaka and the Rakal start to come out as well. So you can definitely feel that in there. But yeah, into the aftertaste, you're getting more of the pine resin and more of the kind of grapefruity characters, which I'm guessing are from the Waimea. But then yeah, as you move further forward from that into the front half of the front third of your tongue, there's a little bit, you do get a little bit of that kind of white green grapey note from the Nelson Sauvin in this one, but I'm getting quite a little bit of like quite pungent lime just behind the very front tip of your tongue, which, as I say, that's really interesting. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together, I think, is really quite nice. Yeah, so the nice big juicy fruity character in this one is good, and as I say, the further into the aftertaste you go, it almost gives you a very slightly orangey character as well, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, that grapefruity and pine resiny note from the Waimea is definitely making itself known in this beer. We can definitely say that. But all in all, this is a really, really nice New England Quadruple. This one, definitely a sipper, and I will enjoy finishing this one off actually. But big thumbs up to both to Third Moon and Nano Cinco for producing this one. This is really good, and again, it shows you how good the Canadian beer scene is already and is becoming. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the flavour side of things for this one. Just to round off the review then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. For me, this one, it's kind of mid-range, full-bodied, something like that. Yeah, bottom to mid-range, full-bodied. I mean, it's not as thick as some of the Imperial Stouts and stuff that we've come across before. So yeah. But carbonation is very, very smooth. This beer's got a lovely mix of a kind of creamy and slightly more oily mouthfeel to it, and I think that works very, very well. For a New England, it has got a little bit more bitterness to it, and that kind of makes sense because if you're going to have this big, sweet, 12% malt base, you need to balance that out a wee bit. So Waimea, in a sense, is actually a good choice for this one. So I think you've maybe got about 50 or 60 IBUs in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit higher as well, because that pine resiny note does kind of linger there, and the floral spice too is fairly prominent. But as we said, the malt base has a bit of dryness underneath, the smoothness in the middle, and the kind of creamy sweetness on top. You've got that lovely, as I say as well, you've got that lovely kind of juicy, fruity character to this one as well. And the fruity side of the beer is quite oily too, I would hasten to add. But yeah, all in all, really, really nice tasting beer, this one, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to recommend it. I do want to try a few of Nano Cinco's own beers as well, because I've heard their stuff is very, very good. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This has been the Haunted Quad, an 11.9% New England Quadruple, whatever you want to call it, IPA. And I think I've really enjoyed this one. Definitely cool to introduce Nano Cinco on the channel as well for the first time. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Third Moon and Nano Cinco as well. And we will see about returning to these guys both at some point in the fairly near future. Until the next time, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out the brewery's social media, check out my Canadian beer tubing colleagues, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Ciao just now.